Hey, what's up? Lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss Ballad and Dagger, an Outlaw Saints novel by Daniel Jose Older. So this is another Rick Riordan Presents book, came out May 2022. This is primarily about Santeros culture, different melting pot of Caribbean cultures altogether. And it takes place in Brooklyn, of all places, primarily in Brooklyn, of all places, in Little Madrigal. So San Madrigal is an island in the Caribbean that has three peaks, and it sank 15 years ago. And so the people of Madrigal escaped, found refuge in the U.S., but there were people already in Brooklyn. They already created a Little Madrigal, but now that there's a full culture of Little Madrigal. So they have many blocks together, and this book is primarily a civil war between the different, not clans per se, but different sects of the Madrigalians, Madrigaleros. This is awesome because the epilogue is actually the prologue, and the main story is just the main character Mateo finding out himself, and the other main character Cella finding out herself. You have non-binary characters that use they/them pronouns, which is just awesome. You have Mateo's aunt is married to this ghost woman who's just, it's just so cool how everything is explained and accepted and championed. It's one of those representation matters bits, and it's just so cool about it. So I just have to, because Madrigal itself is just filled with a lot of cultures. That's why I keep saying melting pot. It's listed in a blurb. I'm just going to page 148. Okay, so this character is saying folktales, stories, songs, spells. A lot of cultures make up who we are. Not just the Santeros, Sephardim, and pirates they always talk about. Tainos and Arawaks came through to trade. Some started families, plus all kinds of folks trying to get away from the law or the various empires all over the Caribbean. For a while, we had crews going out to take down slave ships, and many newly freed people would stay. So cultures from different parts of West Africa, plus Jews would regularly pop up, escaping one pogrom or another in different parts of Europe, etc. So the explanation of why San Madrigal is San Madrigal and becoming San Madrigal, like this is the full-on map of what San Madrigal is, right? The three peaks, the different things, the synagogue in the middle, stuff, right? The different temples to those gods that they all pray to, the combined gods that they pray to, the gods that created the island. It's so cool. It's so cool having all the cultures come together. And why does the Civil War happen? The Civil War happens because the truth was they weren't always the anti-empire that they, always claimed to be. They never partook in the slave trade. They never partook in the spice trade all those years ago. But in actuality, they did. And half of them didn't know, and the other half did know and kept it a secret. They prayed to their demon god, while the others could have the island gods and stuff. And you're like, bro, like all of the truth is coming about, and what's happening now with this new election? It was wild. This book was wild. This took me 3 weeks to read because I knew I was going to love it so much, and I didn't want to rush through it because I wanted to cherish as much as I possibly could, because this was talking about cultures that I'm not familiar with. So that's the point of these Read Riordan books. You learn different cultures you're not familiar with. And it's really cool seeing this melting pot of different cultures being combined together to create their own culture, which then happens to translate to Little Madrigal in Brooklyn, creating this civil war of who's taking out the pirate king and who's becoming this god or goddess and stuff like that, who's inhabited by this, who's being avatared. It's avatared. Is that the term? Who's being used as an avatar? There we go. What god is using a human as an avatar? Okay. But is it really an avatar, or is it just combining the soul with the god? Or the final battles within the end of using the death of a god to kill another god, it was just wild, all happening underground, wild under the streets of Brooklyn. So this is awesome because the title in itself is so poetic. Ballad and Dagger, right? Ballad being Mateo, who plays music. Dagger being Cella. She is the warrior of all of this. She's the destroyer goddess. A lot of poetry in this. A lot of poetry in this. There's 5 parts to this book. There's a lot of poetry in this. Daniel writes very poetic. Certain scenes make sense to add the poetry to it. Some other scenes I found I struggled a little bit reading because I was like, why is there poetry here? Like, I don't, it's slowing the story down. But other points it made sense within that musical description, within that fighting description, things of like that nature. So what's cool on this part in regards to the pirate aspect of this, again, being a Rick Riordan Presents book, throwing piratism in this, throwing the pirate lifestyle in this of centuries worth of pirateering. Not many people know pirate history. So I knew some pirate history. Of course, we all know, from Pirates of the Caribbean, that lovely 5-movie franchise that it is itself. We all know about Tortuga. We all know about Port Royal, right? They referenced it. They visit those places many a times within the pirate series. But what's the real stories? Right? What's the real island of Tortuga? What's the real Port Royal? So the island of Tortuga is an actual island. It's it's off the north shore of Haiti, and that was a pirate safe haven. Different empires controlled it at one given point or another, but always pirates ruled that area, right? Port Royal was another, pirate safe haven, but that was like a big pirate capital. That was Jamaica. There's like a southern peninsula on Jamaica, and the end point of that peninsula was Port Royal, which led to a cove or a bay, whatever you want to call that. So that actually sank. That sank because there was an earthquake and then a subsequent tsunami, which sank and wiped. And a lot of archaeologists have been exploring that area for many, many years, and they've been the tourist industry wants to make that like visitable, because you can't really get there unless like someone to like bring you there via like a boat kind of a thing. But like to put it in a museum status, in an archaeological museum kind of status, representing what happened there, stuff like that, right? So San Madrigal had that kind of combo of, it's an island that sank. So if it was Port Royal, the real Port Royal, which sank because of an earthquake and a tsunami, mixed with the actual island of Tortuga, what happens if the island of Tortuga, which is off the north shore of Haiti, actually sank, right? There's your little pirate geographic history for you there. Good old Caribbean Sea. So that's what was really cool about reading this. And I was like, haha, I actually know these things. I know these things, so I appreciate it more. I'm curious for those people who don't know some pirate history, if they appreciated this book as much as I did, because I appreciated the hell out of it, because it was a combo of Port Royal and Tortuga creating San Madrigal, and San Madrigal sank, and then the people escaped, and then the quest is, if you kill this one person who inhabits this one goddess / two goddesses, can you actually raise San Madrigal again? Because it was the gods and goddesses that actually sank San Madrigal the first time around 15 years ago, because the demon god was awakening and they wanted to smother him. So cool. The epilogue was the prologue. I didn't see it coming. It was so very well done. The fighting was really good. The musical description, I don't know music, so to explain different keys and tempo changes and all these things, it was very interesting reading it. I'm very curious if Daniel knows that, or if he had to learn that. If he learned that, kudos to him for knowing how to put that, because I was like, wow, this is like step by step exactly what has to be done within music that's being written for someone who doesn't know music. I was like, wow, I feel like I understand. So it was cool. Very well done. The second one comes out later this year. I am very excited. I have my stack of other 2022 Read Riordan Presents books. We're going to get through those. We have the Nico Will book coming out soon. We have the technical 6th Percy Jackson book coming out in September. So I want to kind of get through these way before then. I think that's May, the Nico and Will book comes out. Very excited for that. But I have 64 Goosebumps books that I still have to read. That might be my summer project. I've been averaging about 2 books a month for 2023, roughly. I really wish I could do more, but sometimes the brain just doesn't work, and sometimes the brain works. Today was a good example of the brain working. I plowed through 75-ish pages, finished this book out, did our review, on to the next review. Mucho mahalo.